Here to look at the big stories making rounds in the sporting world. Yesterday, the Super Falcons booked a place in WAFCON 2002. Chuku returns to Plateau United today with his Enugu Rangers side. And of course, Louis Stars take on Gombe United. We'll also look at Heartland against Benin Insurance. A few games expected today. Definitely. We'll also look at the Premier League midweek games expected. Man United against Chelsea is definitely the biggest game of the night. Point ahead of any of the second place team in the Premier League standings. Well, how far can they go to win the Premier League title? It's still a tall order. But of course, Arteta and the boys are showing as much class and quality as possible. So we'll look at these stories and so much more in the course of the show today. Good afternoon. Welcome once again. Well, my name is Marizona reporting for GT this afternoon. And of course, I have UT David for company. And together, we are going to do justice to what's in store. It was a sad story, when it was released yesterday through the official handle of the football club, C1 Rocket. Of course, they're reported to have been robbed on their way back from Lagos after an NNL game. And of course, it's quite a sad story. Well, let's see if we can take a look at the statement credited to the football club. And of course, telling us exactly what happened on the way back from Lagos for an NNL game. All right, so why was he trying to track the statements? Well, it's a story of the FC1 Rocket side getting, of course, a suffering robbery attack on their way back from Lagos for an NNL game. And of course, it's a story of, according to a press release credited to the football club players and officials of the side, were on Monday attacked by armed robbers in Ihiala, Anambra State, while returning from Lagos, where they honored a league game against the Ikorodu City last weekend. The incident, which occurred moments after sunset, left some members of the side robbed of their mobile phones. Thankfully, no threat to life or injuries were recorded as the attackers fled when bright lights from moving vehicles towards the location of the ugly incident scared the robbers away, thereby halting the operation. Well, undeterred, of course, by the attack, the boys, the contingent tried to continue the journey and arrived in Uyo on that same night. And we were having this conversation in the morning, UT. There is the need to beef up security, basically not just for football players, and of course of officials who travel, on road by road, basically to honor football games, but also for every single member of the country. And it's become alarming. Recently, we've been talking about core members being kidnapped in a way, to serving the country and all of that. So it is quite important at this point to beef up security across the country, especially in federal roads.
I think it's quite sad at the moment that we're still talking about, concerns basically for road users and the level of insecurity in the country. It's a thing that we've actually talked about every time. It's quite sad that it's also happening to football players at this time. Gadgets being carted away by the thieves particularly. It's also concerning because over time we've also talked about the fact that football players they see football players basically as big superstars, stars that are earning enough money that you can actually infect them, cut away with their gadgets. And this has been more or less a recurring decimal in Nigerian football basically. So for me, I think beefing up security, particularly for the traveling football players, will be quite handy in the Nigerian Premier Football League or in the Nigerian League at large. For the FC1 Rockets side, Hatta with them at the moment, it gets to affect the psychology of these players. But because in as much as we're talking about maybe cutting away with gadgets, it's also a threat to their psychology and it affects them mentally, particularly in their next games to come. So I think at this point, maybe we can actually say we have security personnel, particularly for club sides who are traveling, getting long distance to play games at this time. But I'm just happy, quite happy, that they are threats to life, or they were not threatened, particularly see that to with their lives come back to you quite sad at the moment. But I'm also looking forward to see how they can actually recuperate from that, move away from that, and give positive results.
Unarguably, very sad story, and of course, our thoughts and prayers are to the players, the officials of the football club, and we hope that the federal government would look into these issues and find a way to fix it, because unfortunately not every football club would have the finances to travel by air to honor every single away match. So it's difficult to say, well, they should travel by air, because it's difficult. We know the cost of air transportation lately, and that's the conversation. Well, of course, we hope for better fortunes and a better Nigeria, because all of these issues should be fixed. All right, so let's look at something a lot more exciting. The NPFL match day 2 of returning. Duty, it's a beautiful story because of the many-sided storylines embedded in these games, basically. Well, let's look at the full list of games. First of all, Akwa United would be in Kano State today to take on Kano Pillars. Sunshine Stars against Shooting Stars. Heartland with Kennedy Boboye in his third game in charge to take on Bender Insurance. Abia Warriors, well, they take on Sporting Lagos. Kwara United take on Doma United in a battle of the north, some kind of northern derby there, basically. And of course, Niger Tornadoes take on Remo Stars. Plateau United would welcome Enugu Rangers. It's a return to Plateau State for Fidelis Lechuku. He left Plateau United just last season to join Enugu Rangers. And there's a video on social media right now. The Plateau United boys are saying, "We are coming for you, Lechuku. You're not going to escape it." And of course, Lobby Stars take on Gombe United. The game is expected today. Katina United against Eyimba has been postponed, and we hear this is due to logistical reasons. Let's start with the one that concerns us. UT Akwa United against Kano Pillars at the Sani Abacha Stadium in Kano State. The game comes up by 4 p.m. Track the lineup for us. It should be out right now. Well, Kano Pillars and Akwa United have over the years developed keen rivalry in the NPFL. This includes heated on-field and on-field exchanges, especially during games at the Sani Abacha Stadium. However, with the rules against violent conduct, we're expecting a more peaceful off-field and on-field atmosphere in the game today. The Promise Keepers, Akwa United, heading to the game, placed 17th in the table after a difficult start to life this season. Well, Kano Pillars, by the way, on their part, occupied 7th place and are in high spirits following that 5-2 away victory over Gombe United in March week 11. This match has not been one to produce many goals, but one to feature in recent seasons is that Akwa United have gotten better results over Sani Abacha, the Sani Abacha Stadium rather. And of course, that's a conversation, and we're looking forward to seeing class and quality. Well, UT, you want to look at recent form. Akwa United are nowhere there. A team you can maybe bank on to get a result at home. Talk more of getting a result away from home at this point. And Kano Pillars are coming off the back of that remarkable victory against Gombe United just over the weekend. At this point, what are you expecting from the Promise Keepers? Remember that Coach Fatayosho had said that the team has, in his words, a fundamental problem, which is the lack of proficiency in the final third.
Well, I think the struggles continue, particularly this afternoon against Kano Pillars, because we talk about one of the decent side in the Nigerian Premier Football League. You put Kano Pillars there in the top 10. I think number 7 right now in the Nigerian Premier Football League. And that certainly shows you the level of competition, particularly from a side who were in the NNL last season, coming up to the Nigerian Premier Football League once back. And it looks like it has been quite rosy for them. Akwa United not playing as a one-time champion of the league, with the ambitions they have, particularly in finishing in the top 4. It looks like those ambitions are gradually, gradually sliding towards the airline, and it's not just good for them at the moment going forward. But for Fatah Show, I also understand the players and the gaffers under intense pressure, particularly because you want to deliver for your club side. You want to, of course, also, get in tandem and, of course, get closer, particularly to the ambition you set for yourself. Against Kano Pillars, who are a much decent side this season, getting a 5-2 victory away to Gombe. They want to consolidate on that result. For Akwa United, I think the better result they can actually get against Kano Pillars would be a draw this time. Because we talk about them not really being fascinating away from home. Yes, they've scored lots of goals away from home, but they have conceded more goals as well. And that's quite problematic for them going forward. If they can actually get a draw, that'll be quite decent for me.
Yeah, that's the conversation. Well, Kano Pillars scored 5 goals in the previous match day. Are we expecting a goal galore here?
Maybe just be. I'm not expecting them to, shower much goals on Akwa United, but I'm also looking forward to Akwa United being a lot more decent, particularly in the back now, because we've talked about Akwa also scoring this conceding. Maybe a decent score line. 2-0, particularly 2 goals scored against Akwa United won't be that bad, because I'm also looking at Akwa United not being decent as well at the back line. We saw at the next Cape Township Stadium last weekend where they scored 1 and conceded 1. So that certainly shows you that there is still problems, particularly as it has to do with the structure of the team and how they approach games, basically. But I'm not expecting Kano Pillars to score 5 goals past Akwa United in this particular fixture. I hear Fatah Show made 3 changes to the side. I just wish the 3 changes can actually bring some level of moral boost for Akwa United going forward in this game.
Right, so let's look at the lineup. Badmus Nuruddin starting goal for the Promise Keepers. Samuel Ganda, David Philip the captain, Ubong Isien, Wisdom Don, Anthony Chukwebuka, Sunday Williams, Redwan Sadiq, Edidion Ezekiel, Dairo Joe, and Uche Collins, all starting for Akwa United. Jean Efala starts from the bench. Emmanuel James, Oshomo Tosin, Anthony Anyoke, Sheyo Guntayo, Oganetega, Betomame, Mubarak Said, Hadi Mohammed, and Solomon Chigoziem, all on the bench for Akwa United. We'll wish them the very best as they look to turn things around for themselves in this particular game. But UT, there are other games expected, other exciting games as well. I'd love to see how Plateau United welcome Ilechuku, back to, just basically for Plateau United. They've not been the best of teams so far, sitting 12th with 13 points from 10 games. Enugu Rangers, not so decent as well. They sit 9th with 15 points from 10 games. This is some delicately poised game because of the names and the faces that will reunite.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing how Fidelis Ilechuku can actually, galvanize the lads, talking about Enugu Rangers now to, do something very handy against his former club side, Plateau United. And it looks like the Plateau United fans are waiting to give him a very warm welcome back to his former place. But then at this point, it looks like it will be quite problematic because we're talking about Plateau who are below the top 10. And at this time, it doesn't look quite rosy for them going forward. Basically, the game of, a fascinating side who've known each other for a very long time. So I'm also looking forward to the clash. But away from that, Mari, it looks like another fascinating match would be between Heartland rather than Bendel and Charlotte, because Heartland are also looking for their very first win of the season, particularly under a new gaffer. We're talking about Kennedy Boboye. 2 games right now under his belt. Lost the first one against Aimba International, drew the second game, and this will be the third game. So I'm looking forward to see whether or not they can actually do giant strides against Bendel Insurance. For Bendel Insurance, they have been quite fascinating this season, and that shows you particularly where they are in the lock at this particular point in time, number 6. And I'm looking forward to see whether or not, Heartland can actually kickstart their season under Kennedy Boboye with a fascinating win against Bendel Insurance. But the clashes later this week, or later to the right, looks quite fascinating, and I'm looking forward to see these games.
All right, well, let's look at the table, how things are shaping up in the NPFL quickly. Remo Stars sit top with 22 points. Doma United second, with 21 points. Lobby Stars third with 20 points. And, of course, Aimba fourth with 19 points. And it's a story. The Promise Keepers sit way bottom with 17 points. 11 points from 11 games, sitting 17th to the table as a matter of fact. And that's the story. Well, it's going to be an interesting story, UT. Apart from that, there's also a Southwest Derby, Sunshine Stars against Shooting Stars. It's an interesting story. Remo Stars will look to continue their fine form against the Konala boys. We're talking about Niger Tornadoes, and it'll be an interesting story to see. Well, Heartland have been drawing a lot of games, UT.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bender Insurance last season drew a lot of games as well. So they have renamed the Heartland Bender game the Okra Derby. All right, Joel, let's move on to other stories before we talk about the Premier League. The Super Falcons of Nigeria showed class yesterday, UT, and it was a very fine story. They came from a goal down to defeat Cape Verde by 2-1 and 7-1 on aggregate to qualify for the WAFCON 2024. And that's the Women's AFCON set to be hosted in Morocco, and that's next year as well. The Cape Verdeans have put themselves in front through a goal from Ivana Moreira, and the Falcons had to battle through the first half, could not get a goal until the 62nd minute when Esther Okoronkwo equalized for the Falcons. And of course, Captain Fantastic Rashida Tajibade scored the eventual winner for the Falcons as they got the victory and have now qualified for the WAFCON 2024. Now, UT, for me, right, we had this conversation yesterday about the coach, Justin Madugu. He came in on an interim basis, and I definitely am sure that the NFF were looking to monitor his performance and see how he leads the girls. And so far, so good. It's been a fine story. 3 wins and the draw in 4 games as a coach of the side. Do you think that the NFF are still thinking of bringing back Randy Wardrum with what we've seen Madugu do?
Well, it looks like the situation, and of course, the body language of the NFF is also looking forward to, a home-based coach right at this time, because we're talking about concerns about, fitting the bills of the foreign-based coaches, and the difficulties we have in terms of, trying to honor their contracts by paying the salaries of these coaches. So if we move from that particular challenges, particularly facing the NFF, I can actually say they're also looking forward to, maybe making permanent this particular, gaffer overseeing the side now to be quite permanent heading into the WAFCON next year. But at this point, I'm also looking at the level of competitiveness, because if we talk about quality, I think the ladies have got quality. Esther Okoronkwo, 3 goals in 2 matches at this point, speaks volume of that. And he's also already regular players and established stars were out of the last qualifying games. We don't have to be a chance to talk about Esther Okoronkwo, scoring 3 goals in 2 games for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. But I'm also looking at the quality of the sides. The Super Falcons have actually made low quality side in terms of the level of competitiveness going forward. So we can't actually say the man Justin Madugu, we can't actually judge his performance due to the last 2 qualifying games we've actually played. But take nothing away from the man. I think he's tactically sound as well to oversee the Super Falcons of Nigeria and the quality they've had. So moving into the WAFCON, it is a 50-50 chance, because we're also talking about facing stiffer opponents going to the WAFCON. So whether or not he can actually do giant strides with them going into the WAFCON rather is also a statement or a question that can actually be answered when we get to the WAFCON, proper. But if you look at the 2 last qualifiers we've played, the man has got chances to be named the permanent gaffer.
All right, so monitor proceedings and see what happens in the coming days if it is going to be a possibility that Justin Madugu will be the man to lead Nigeria's women's football national team, the Super Falcons, to the WAFCON 2024. All right, so let's take calls in 090-2223-1011 and 0817-624-8565. The Nigerian Premier Football League match day 12, expectations from Akwa United, and of course the fact that the team is yet to show any form of consistency, any form of class. Can they start that later today? All right, so push the panic button if the team at least do not get some good result in the next two, three games.
I think it's quite obvious that they may push the panic button. It started already, Mari, after match day 4, where we had, of course, the chairman of Akwa United coming out to, support the lads up, also, urging them to do a lot better in terms of, trying to meet up the ambition they set for the season. So at this point, all is at stake. Maybe they're just looking at the next 2-3 games, just like you've mentioned. Well, let's look at the next 2 or 3 games. If they do not do well, maybe actions will be taken. So at this point, I think we do not really want to talk about ultimatum anymore, because the next 2 or 3 games will be quite handy for any decision they want to make going forward.
All right, so let's take calls in 09022231011, 0817-624-8565. Just to remind you, the games expected today, the ones on United, Niger Tornadoes against Remo Stars on the NPFL Live app. Kano Pillars take on Akwa United will be streamed live on the NPFL Live app. Abia Warriors versus Sporting Lagos. Plateau United versus Rangers will be streamed live as well. Lobby Stars against Gombe United. Heartland against Bendel Insurance will be streamed live on the NPFL Live app. Sunshine Stars against Shooting Stars will be streamed live as well. Right, we are on the phone lines right now. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Hello. All right, keep the calls coming in. 09022231011, 0817-624-8565. Good afternoon. Football fan, welcome to the show. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, Johnson the Copite.
Yes, boss.
Welcome.
People go still come from. I hear some rumors say the 2 teams fit lose. Man U and Chelsea, the 2 of them fit lose.
Two lucky losers.
Stop that.
Unfortunate
Stop.
losers.
Copite, stop that. I'm serious. Stop it.
Okay, sir. But Mary, to be precise, see, if there's any team that I don't hate their fans, but when Ferguson was in charge of Man U and Howard Webb was a referee by then, everybody knew what usually happened, especially 9 minutes. So when I'm always happy seeing them fall, understand? Because of what the experience we had back then, understand? So when I see Man U suffering, it's a pleasure to me. So there's every possibility both of them might lose the game. So nothing too much. But as for Liverpool, that Liverpool team is still not the I see the shout because I know that the Jurgen Klopp will come and give us a plenty excuse by January. Thank you.
Thank you very much for talking to us this afternoon. Well, we'll look at the Premier League and the games expected tonight. For the purpose of context, Man United play Chelsea, so I don't understand how both teams are going to lose. Don't mind that guy. Hello.
Yeah.
Mr. Easy on the line.
Yeah, good afternoon, small journalists. I want to first of all comment on the outcome of Chelsea and Man United. If you want to check the statistics, you will see that these are the 2 worst teams in the Premier League. Take it or leave it. And I will see because the 2 of them should have a point to prove that United and Chelsea are better than each other. I want to see them tonight. And let me also advise United, whether in crisis, how the team will not get into a crisis. That you already have a player for Sancho. You also brought in that Brazilian guy. So you keeping Sancho for the Brazilian guy, he didn't produce, and the rest of the
Stacey, thank you.
And the player are not happy with the coaches. So they should also maintain their crisis. That time, our wave used to blow against Liverpool in favor of United. I can't forget the FA Cup that Stephen Gerrard was red card at the end of the match, they discovered that one of the United fans was in the AC.
All right, Mr. Easy, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of the show this morning, this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. When it's about Man United, you say it with a lot of energy. For Liverpool, your professor is doing well. I can see that already. Well, let's talk about the Premier League quickly. Well, UT, there was some drama yesterday at Luton where Arsenal showed class. And, of course, they're gradually showing that thing they call champions quality. It was a 7-goal thriller yesterday, and Arsenal got the victory against the Luton Town. 4-3, as a matter of fact. It was quite some end-to-end stuff. Osho had equalized after Martinelli put Arsenal in front. Gabriel Jesus put Arsenal in front again. Adebayo equalized. 2 Nigerians doing Arsenal the damage. And of course, Ross Barkley on his birthday gave Luton Town the lead. This time it was 3-2. And of course, Kai Havertz, who has gradually silenced critics, scored the equalizer. Declan Rice left it very late for Arsenal to get 3 points with that smashing header into the bottom corner to give Arsenal a victory and 5 points at top of the Premier League standings. Now, UT, I'm not going to ask you what you thought of the game because Luton Town recently have shown some level of class. They have now left the relegation waters, and it shows you the amount of hard work they've put in to get it. But let's look at the fine details that determined yesterday's game. First of all was Declan Rice, signed for £100 million, and he has turned up for Arsenal so much so far. Now, there's another player who was signed for £100 million from Brighton, who was compared to Declan Rice. But that player is not as impactful to his club as Declan has been to Arsenal.
He's not near impactful. I think we had a debate a couple of times before.
I wish Vladimir was here, though.
When I made mention of the fact that Declan Rice, this man has proven almost for the last 3 seasons consecutively that he's a quality player and is worth the amount of money that Arsenal went for him at the moment. And the man is also showing that dividends. Remember the game against Manchester City, against Manchester United, and just yesterday against Luton Town. These are quality performances he shows every single time. And one fascinating thing is due to the fact that last season, during the summer, we are talking about, the permutations of Thomas Partey being key and integral to Arsenal. And of course, due to the injuries, missing the man. We're not even talking about, the injury was, being quite unfortunate on the man Thomas Partey at the moment, because Declan Rice is doing giant strides, scoring goals, providing stability to the midfield, and also covering grounds for them. That certainly shows.
Let's talk Kai Havertz. Now, before the last 4 games, prior to the last 4 games, he had scored just 3 goals in 32 games. Now, in the last 4 games, he scored 3 goals as well. Is he gradually silencing critics?
I think he's done that already. And also proving why Mikel Arteta played him every
that money for him.
Even when he was not delivering at the start of the season, he kept playing. And he just looked like maybe he was one of the missing pieces in the jigsaw for Arsenal. I mean, in the last 3 games, he's done quite well, phenomenally well. Comes up clutch for them. Remember the last weekend game, came off the bench and proved to be the difference for Arsenal going forward. So basically, it looks like he's also just settling in quite well, providing goals and assists for Arsenal's side. And it looks like he's also, another advantage or a major threat for them going forward. So for Mikel Arteta and these Arsenal players, they are fitting in quite well, and it looks like they want to better their performance of last season.
Now, let me shock you, UT. Arsenal's last 11 Premier League goals have been scored by 11 different players. Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, Zinchenko, Saliba, Trossard, Tomiyasu, Vieira, and Edin Ketia. Now, when Gabriel Jesus was signed, and of course there were concerns as to, is he going to be the one to show that the goal-scoring burden at Arsenal? Little did we know that Mikel Arteta wants to have a team where everybody can score. I mean, it's a remarkable feat that 11 players have scored their last 11 goals in the Premier League.
That's quite fascinating. It certainly shows you the team is not built under one player. Recall the start of the season, or during, I think, the match day 4 or 5 or thereabouts, when Bukayo Saka was injured. I think prior to the game against Manchester City, and there were concerns already. Come on, how will Arsenal fare without the services of this man? But they defeated Manchester City. It certainly shows you that goals can actually come in from anywhere, particularly as it has to do with the attacking players. And they've also got depth that they can actually, say anybody come up from the bench and comes up clutch for Arsenal.
The top of the table, UT with, of course, 5 points ahead of second place. I think it's Man City there, basically, if I'm not mistaken. Liverpool, rather. 36 points they have. Liverpool sits second with 31 points, as a matter of fact. Last season, they ended second after staying most part of the season at the top of the table. Can they do things differently this time?
I think the difference between last season and this season for Arsenal has been maturity, because I've seen some level of maturity in the team going forward. You do not really see those schoolboy errors anymore that we saw last season.
No, we saw 2 yesterday
from a goalkeeper.
Yeah, David Raya.
But away from that, I'm talking about team performance and also having to make do without the services of one key player, particularly because you see the other player gets injured, you do not really know who comes up clutch for them. But certainly, even when they're having bad days in office, they find way of grinding out positive results, and that shows you the title contender mentality that City have had over time in the Premier League. And I think that's what has actually stood Arsenal out, particularly this season. So it boils down to consistency, particularly for them this season. And in the past 15 games, they've shown that.
Can the Arsenal fans dream?
I think the dream is quite near, particularly because we've seen match day 15. After 15 games. Fortunately, after 15 games, top of the league. So it also boils down to how consistent they can keep grinding out this result.
All right.
But at this point, I can certainly say Arsenal are one of the title favourites.
That's a conversation. Well, also, Wolves defeated Burnley by a goal. Yesterday, Burnley had scored 5 against Sheffield United, but he who lives by goals dies by goals. Well, their games expected today would, of course, take a few calls in before we look at the games expected today. I know the Arsenal fans are itching to talk at this point. Well, I'd love to ask the Arsenal fans. Your team is sitting top of the table right now, 5 points ahead of second place Liverpool. Are the Arsenal fans thinking in their wildest imaginations that they can win the Premier League title this season? Good afternoon. Welcome.
Hello, Maradona.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. This is Anedi, the Gunners band, Gunners for life. I tried to call you in the morning, but I couldn't get you.
All right, welcome.